ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Sports fans from all around the globe, I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week, a day early, for some tea time wagers with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon, live at the Travelers, Connecticut, about 3 hours from me, 3 and some change. I will be in Ionia, Michigan. Wheels up early tomorrow morning for a food truck festival on Saturday. If you're near the fairgrounds, Ionia Fairgrounds in Michigan, come by, say hi to me and Anthony and the rest of the staff there. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith. Then head over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, chops, seafood, appetizers, wine. Terry's got it all. 4 subscription plans. Just set it and forget it. And every 30 days, like myself, get a box of protein to last you throughout the month. The only thing you'll need is a spare propane tank. So without further ado, after the U.S. Open rain delay, J.J. Spawn from 64 feet, Brady Kannon.
What a... Tyrrell Hatton was so cool in his post-game interview. They were asking him questions, and he was kind of going through this and that. And then he kind of looked over and he goes, "Oh, he holed it, unbelievable." And, and what a way to win. Exactly right. What a way to win a major championship. And you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier today. I thought the U.S. Open was tremendous until Sunday. Until we had that weather delay, it kind of fuddled everything up a little bit. I think Sam Burns and Adam Scott didn't have much of a chance once things, started getting sideways. And hey, congrats to JJ Spawn. He survived, that last couple hours of golf. But I thought prior to that, Oakmont was a real star. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen a U.S. Open that I think had that perfect balance of being really, really hard, but not over the top and tricked up and quirky and just kind of a joke where players were just, this forget this garbage. They understood that it was very hard, but they knew it was very fair. And I loved being able to see some players make a birdie now and then, have some eagle opportunities, but also double bogey, lurking immediately around the corner. And I think, we talked about it last week too, the winning score being under 278.5. Less, we felt it was going to exceed 1.5 over par, that 2, 3, or 4 under would have won. And again, I think if the weather would have cooperated on Sunday, we would have gotten there. The course, I thought it was, again, a beautiful balance of being able to score on some holes, but also having to just treasure, the beloved par and realize how difficult this place was. Beyond that, Jeff, I started digging a little deeper in the memory banks, and I'm going, you know what? I think the 3 majors this year have been kind of exactly what they're supposed to be. The Masters was the most dramatic theater we've ever seen on the second 9 at Augusta, and Rory McIlroy wins it. And then the PGA Championship, typically caters to the bombers and just a, surgical, surgical performance by Scottie Scheffler, dissecting the field and keeping Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau at bay, and doing it with drives right down the middle of the fairway, and just a perfectly executed game of golf. And then you go to the US Open, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. So I thought the identity really showed for each major and what they kind of, advertise themselves to be, what their identity is. I thought really, has played out for the first three majors of the year, more so than I can remember in recent history.
You kind of stole my thunder there for the follow-up, because I think you were so spot on. I applaud that. And again, these are all unscripted, and holy moly, you come right out. And for the average fan, for someone that catches up to the majors, especially on Saturday and Sunday, and what happened on the back nine of the Masters, and we know, you and I both know, everyone watching knows, the Masters doesn't officially begin till the back nine on Sunday. And
Yeah.
did we have fireworks on Sunday then? And then the PGA, Scottie, Jon Rahm, Bryson, and then people are getting all geared up. Now here comes the U.S. Open, Oakmont, and of course on Father's Day, and they're looking at J.J. Spawn, they're looking at Adam Scott, and they're saying, hey, where's Rory? Where's Scott? And then you get a rain delay, and that's what the conversation kind of we had today. And I was saying to you, for most people, they're like, you know what? I'll be a dad, and I'll go smoke a cigar out on the deck, and I'll keep my ear to it, but I'll look like, I'm not paying attention to the golf.
Yeah. It was, it took the wind out of the sails, when they had that rain delay, and it didn't make any things any better. I felt it was best that they probably had to complete play that day. It was real easy to argue at the time that, like, okay, let's stop this. The conditions aren't good, but that's really tough to start things on a Monday as well. That just kind of throws the whole mojo out of whack. It was just unfortunate. Mother Nature kind of put a little wrinkle there on Sunday that did not make that U.S. Open perfect. I thought 75 to 80% of that U.S. Open was terrific. I mean, gosh, hold the thing at Oakmont every year. That was just, God, is that course hard. And it was so, I mean, it was actually like refreshing to see Scottie Scheffler make a mistake. He showed he was human. It's like, oh my gosh, Scottie just put it in a ditch and has to take an unplayable lie. Have we ever seen that in his career before? It was making humans out of these it was making mere mortals out of these, deities that we see on the golf course week in and week out. But at the same time, I didn't feel it was tricked up or out of, unfair. It was just that difficult. And that's what a US Open should be. And I hope, Shinnecock next year, we've got Olympic Club coming up. I hope we get back to that style of US Open where, the Jim Furyk's and the Payne Stewarts and, JJ Spawn, whoever it is, just drive it down the fairway, stay out of all the trouble, realize how valuable par is and move on to the next hole and just hold on for dear life. But at the same time, a really fair test of golf, and not like a Chambers Bay that was, or a Shinnecock we've seen in the past where the greens were, so baked out. It was like a tabletop and they had to, spray them down. And, it seems like the US Open, they've tried to push the envelope so far sometimes that it's gotten out of control. Thankfully, it did not this year. Just a little bit unfortunate that we got some rain that would have been nice to avoid, but obviously they cannot control that.
And we talked at length, JJ Spawn, about 6 weeks ago, maybe. It was right before the Masters, takes Rory to sudden death, and Rory defeats him there in a 3-hole playoff.
When I had him at 110 to 1, by the way.
And was gifted the playoff, so you were able to
Yes,
at least
yes.
make some money. And then there was a stretch, 30 straight pars, I think. The guy is just rock solid. I had a couple of colleagues reach out to me talking about his putting, and they used the name Ben Crenshaw. The guy,
Yeah.
you just cannot rattle this guy. And hats off. Hats off. An amazing story. 64-footer to end it. It was a great, great finish, of course, to the U.S. Open.
It was. It kind of resurrected, what was an anticlimactic finish. The way that he went out with a bang like that was great, because otherwise, the what had been a tremendous championship kind of lost a little bit of luster there, I felt, with the weather interruption and whatnot. But yeah, absolutely. It was great to see him go out in style like that. And yeah, his putting was absolutely fantastic. He was number 2 in the field all week for strokes gained putting. And I felt that would eventually be his downfall, because usually you don't maintain that level with a putter for 4 days. Typically not the case, but he did. And that's really why he won the championship. I also thought it was tremendous how he got, I want to say it was 3 really bad breaks in his first 6 holes. He was like 5 over through his first 6 holes. Had a brilliant wedge shot that hit the flagstick and rolled, 100 yards off the green, hit a rake, next to a bunker, and his ball just, went further into the rough. He had some really bad breaks that were not by his own doing. So that was kind of, cool, poetic justice to see it come back around his way as well.
And now we're the week after a major, a signature event. Here's my 2-minute Rory talk. He finally talked to the media. He came out, and something that you have said and I have said, he had a hard time getting up for these. He goes, if I can't get up for the Open, the British Open in my hometown in a few weeks, I'll never get up for anything else. I'm not saying he was going through the motions, but I'm hoping now it's over and we start to see the real Rory again.
We might. One golf tipster that I have a great deal of respect for picked him this week, his number 1 selection. And I wouldn't be surprised, because, he comes out on Sunday and you could almost predict it, right? He said the night before when he spoke to the media, like you're talking about, what do you want out of your last round? He's like, I just hope it only lasts 4.5 hours. I can get the heck out of here. And it was obvious that he didn't care on Sunday, so much so that he was footloose and fancy free and shot 67. And it was nice to kind of see him. We talk about this is going to free him up. Now that the Masters is off his back, he's going to go nuts. Well, he finally looked like he was freed up a little bit on Sunday at Oakmont and didn't care and went out and just played golf and shot a 67, low round of the day, he and John Rahm. So yeah, maybe this is what, springboards him to getting back to what we saw at the beginning of this golf season. I'm not so sure just yet. I didn't pick him this week. Will it be Portrush? I don't know. We will see. And again, I've said it before, he might not win another major the rest of his career. It doesn't matter. Rory does from here on out does not matter, because he's done everything at this point, the career Grand Slam and the best Masters finish we've ever seen. I think it feels like some of that nonsense is finally behind us, the non-conforming driver and yada, yada, yada. Hopefully we're past all that.
Cromwell, Connecticut, the Travelers signature event. I'm looking at DraftKings as we speak. Scottie Scheffler plus 280. Then it drops to Rory at plus 1,200. Colin Morikawa plus 1,600. Xander Schauffele at 1,600. Oberg at 22. Cantlay 22, JT 28, Victor Hovland at 3,000. We talked earlier today. I had a pre-flop Victor Hovland at 50-1 at the U.S. Open. We added Hatton at 27-1. I'll be 100% honest with you, Brady. I saw social media, a lot of people jumping on Hovland Sunday at 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
I never, ever, ever felt like, we're going to get this one. Never, not once.
No, me either. I told you earlier today at the halfway point after 36 holes, I jumped on Adam Scott. I really liked how he was steady Eddie. He had 2 rounds of 70. both 2 days in a row of even par. And I was like, okay, I like the way this is going. And he was one of the top guys in the field for strokes gained off the tee. And we talked about that, how we felt this was a first shot golf course. You got to get off the tee. You can't get into trouble. You got to stripe it down the middle all week long. And that's what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Then he went out on Saturday and shot a 67. I was like, okay, here we go. He's in the final pairing. And I thought, again, things were going okay for him. And I think the weather really affected him, not that he would have won it or whatever, but it got, he and Sam Burns combined to be 17 over par. They were the two. I thought it was going to be one of those two guys. I thought it was going to be Burns or Scott to win the whole thing. And I'm with you. I didn't think Hovland, because he was losing strokes off the tee and he was dreadful with the putter. And it was kind of that way most of the week for him. He made that miracle shot out of the rough on Saturday to about 3 feet for birdie when it looked like he was staring double bogey in the face. And then he'd make another shot like that and he'd miss the 8-foot putt for, it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back all week long. So I didn't feel he was going to put it together. I also spoke with our good buddies, Jeffrey Benson and Jeff Sherman at Circa and the Superbook respectively. And that was their worst outcome was Victor Hovland. I asked Benson, I said, who's the book need today? And he said, anybody but Hovland. And I asked the same thing of Sherman. And he said, we're okay with basically any of the top guys winning. But it would be best if it was, I think he said, it would be best if it was Adam Scott or maybe Burns. I can't remember. But the worst case scenario for him, even though it would have been a very small win, the worst case was still Victor Hovland for him as well. So that kind of reinforced what I was thinking, that he's not going to get it done.
Signature event, Travelers Championship, Cromwell, Connecticut. Correlated courses, Brady.
Yeah, as far as the skill sets, pretty basic course here, less than 6,900 yards, Pete Dye design, fairways are relatively wide. The rough is pretty thick, but most of the guys are going to be able to find the fairways. The greens are relatively small, but it's proven that you can hit these in regulation pretty easily over the years. This is really kind of a polar opposite of Oakmont, where one guy was under par last week. You might have all 72 players in the field under par this week. A little bit of a birdie fest here. The average winning score in the last 3 editions has been 21 under par, and that's pretty much exactly where the proposition bet is at the Superbook out here in Las Vegas. 20.5 under par is what Mr. Sherman posted there. I looked at strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, birdies or better gained. You got to be able to make some birdies. Par fours, obviously there's 12 of them here, most of them ranging between 350 and 450 yards, and then hole proximity from 100 to 150. About 40% of the approach shots are going to come from that window, from 100 to 150 yards. So, some tournaments we call a putting contest. This might be a wedge shot contest. If you're dialed in with your wedges this week from 100 to 150, you ought to have a good chance. Correlated courses, I think it's a pretty strong week for, stickiness, if you will. Pete Dye, we see Pete Dye designs all over the place on the PGA Tour, and a lot of the same guys win at those courses. Sedgefield, where they play the Wyndham, a lot of crossover success there. East Lake, where they play the Tour Championship. TPC Sawgrass, of course, a Pete Dye design, the Players Championship. TPC Deer Run, where they play the John Deere. And then the RBC Heritage at Harbor Town, a little bit of that. I think there's some crossover there as well. Again, another Pete Dye design. So that's what I used this week, and it translated into 5 guys as far as the outrights, Jeff. And, you went down that list there. You start with Scheffler and then Rory and then Morikawa and JT and Hovland. And, there was like one reason or another that I was kind of poking holes in all those guys. I didn't end up landing on any of them. And I made my first 2 selections, and then I added 3 more. And I'm like, okay, I got to come up with one short shot. And I'll be kicking myself if he wins the thing. The one guy of those shorter priced favorites that I wanted to add but did not end up doing it is Xander Schauffele. He could be ready to go again. Nice finish last week. I mean, the guy's a machine at the U.S. Open. It's like he never finishes worse than 12th. He was 12th this week, and you look at his resume for the U.S. Open, it's like 12, 8, 5, 3, 4, 12, 6. I mean, it's just the top 15 every single time he tees it up, and he could be ready. He's won here before. He could be ready to go again, but JT, I successfully bet him to miss the cut last week. I don't know. And he makes a ton of sense here. Tremendous wedge player, but I'm just not sure. Sepp Straka was a guy I had big confidence in last week. Drives it straight as an arrow, iron play, perfect U.S. Open type player. He was awful. He was embarrassing out there. So is he ready to come back and win? Victor Hovland, we talked about him. I don't really want to go there. Russell Henley was one of our picks last week, cashed the top 20 finish for us, played very, very well. But he's very popular, the selection this week. Is he going to – that's the other thing too. These guys that were in the thick of it last week, not only that mental strain of coming down the stretch on the second 9 on Sunday in a major championship, but then you throw in those weather conditions. I'm not really going to go to the window with J.J. Spawn this week. I'm not going to go with Sam Burns. Russell Henley is another guy that was kind of in the throngs of that type of thing. Tyrrell Hatton, I know he's not playing, but you get my point. The guys that Carlos Ortiz, another live player, but the guys that were in the mix there. I saw another thing, Data Golf. I don't know if you're familiar with Data Golf, but it's a really good website for analytics and stuff like that. And they called when a player's win probability adjusted by 5% or more, they called that a moment. And like on the back 9 on Sunday, you had the win probability, and you could see it in the odds. If you were checking the live odds, there was a lot of volatility, a lot of bouncing around. Adam Scott was the favorite for a minute. Sam Burns was the favorite. And then, Tyrrell Hatton and Hovland. It was bouncing all over the place. And Data Golf was saying, a moment when a player's win probability adjusted 5% or more down the back stretch on Sunday at Oakmont happened 25 times. I mean, you think about that. You're trying to land make an in-game wager or something. Okay, this guy looks like it changed 25 times who was supposed to win that thing. That's how wild that was. But so I didn't go with any of the guys that were in that pressure cooker coming down the stretch. Now, you might argue my first selection that's Robert McIntyre. Played him at 45-1. And I like that. I don't think he was necessarily one of those guys that was in the pressure cooker. He went into the clubhouse at 1 over par and was sitting pretty for, an hour and a half, a couple hours, just, hoping that he was going to get into a playoff or whatever. He kind of came out of nowhere. He shot a 69 on Saturday and a 68 on Sunday. He never really got into that, the thralls of that, that pressure cooker, whatever you want to call it. So I don't feel, he had that mental exhaustion that some of these other guys may have experienced now coming into the next week. I think with McIntyre, I take it more as really good form, and this could move him right into this week without that fatigue mentally and physically that some of these other guys experienced. He gained strokes on approach and tee to green last week and with the putter. He finished 16th here last week and was 9th earlier this year at TPC Sawgrass, a Pete Dye design. So I think McIntyre is not a bad play for this week. And then I went with Siwoo Kim at 50-1. He gained strokes on the rest of the field, tee to green and on approach last week, but he lost strokes with the putter. That was his Achilles heel, was the flat stick. You remember he started out brilliantly, shot a 68 on Thursday. He's one of the best in this field on the correlated courses. Now, you look at the Travelers Championship. He's finished 26th, 25th, and 11th. And that's not when there were 72 guys in the field. That's when there was 150 guys in the field. He had some very strong finishes here. He's won the Wyndham Championship and also finished top 10 an additional 3 times. He has 2 top 10 finishes at the Players Championship, including a win. So, and Siwoo Kim just finished 8th at the PGA Championship. Before that, he finished 8th at the RBC Heritage, another die design. So he is really strong on the correlated courses this week. And I also think he's in pretty darn good form right now. If his putter cooperates, he could be a sleeper this week at 50-1. Brian Harman, he's not a sleeper. He's at 80-1, which is a pretty incredible price for a guy that has a track record like Harman at TPC River Highlands. I figured he would be a popular pick. He is somewhat popular because you can't ignore what he's done here. He's never won, but he's had 7 top 10 finishes. He's had 2 top 10s at the Wyndham, 2 top 10s at the John Deere, including a win, and 4 top 10s at the Players Championship, including a runner-up in 2023. He won this year back in April, and he was also 3rd at the RBC Heritage at another die design at Harbortown. So he's a little like Siwoo Kim, if not even more so, as far as how he's done at this course and the correlated courses. And we know this type of track, that little short positional track is perfect for Brian Harman's game. So, at the very least, we'll see if we can cash a top 20 with him once again. And then a couple of triple-digit bombs. Matt Fitzpatrick won at the RBC Heritage a couple of years ago. Also happens to be one of his favorite courses in the world. He grew up vacationing at that property, so very familiar with the die design there. He's been as high as top 10 at Eastlake for the Tour Championship. He was 5th at the Players Championship in 2023 and number 1 in the field last week at Oakmont for strokes gained putting. This week in this field, he ranks number 2, and the putting surface is similar. Last week it was Poana. This week it's a Poana bent grass blend. So I think I think that hot putter will carry over this week, and he's been very good on this type of track before. And I've seen him anywhere from 80-1 to 90-1 to better than 100-1. I was able to get him at 110. The numbers this week, Jeff, are amazing. There's 72 guys in this field, and Matt Fitzpatrick is at triple digits. Brian Harman, who's been the most successful guy in the world at this course, is at 80 or 90-1. And it's because Scottie's here and Rory's here and all those guys at the top that I, found a way to poke holes in them not winning here. We're getting the rest of these guys. I mean, incredibly accomplished major champions in Fitzpatrick and Brian Harman at 90-1. Pretty incredible. And then finally, Davis Thompson at 125-1. Right around this time last summer, he was red hot. He finished 12th at the Wyndham, one of our correlated courses. And that came just a month after, oh, by the way, he got his first PGA Tour win where? At the John Deere Classic, one of our correlated courses. He was 10th back at the Players Championship in March. Last 24 rounds, he ranks in the top half of this field for just about everything we care about. Strokes gained off the tee, approach, the 400 to 450 yard par fours, and in hole proximity from 125 to 150 yards. So that's the card right there. Like I say, I wanted to add that one shorter shot, but I just couldn't get there. We'll see if one of these 5 works out. McIntyre, Siwoo Kim, Brian Harman, Fitzpatrick, and Davis Thompson played McIntyre, Kim, and Harman all for a top 20 finish, all at plus money. And then Fitzpatrick and Thompson for a top 30 finish, also both at plus money. So, we're figuring if these guys can beat half the field, we're going to cash a lot of different ways.
72 golfers, no cut, correct?
Right, exactly.
So they're all stuck there for the weekend in lovely Connecticut. Maybe they'll swing over to Foxwoods or the Mohegan Sun in between rounds for a little sports book fun here. Next week, where are we?
Next week, I think it might be the John Deere, which we have talked about here as one of our correlated courses this week. And that would make sense because the Scottish Open is coming up. Oh, it's the Rocket Mortgage. Okay. The Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, Michigan, where you will be, and then the John Deere, and then I believe it's the Scottish Open, and then the Open Championship, the final major of the year, which I'll throw you a little bone here. Little early release. I've made 3 plays for the British Open, and I did those on Sunday night after the United States Open. Do you have any guesses as to who maybe I've landed on for the Open Championship, which will take place at Royal Portrush? Just the 3rd time it's hosted an Open Championship, and the first one since 2019 when Shane Lowry won there by 6 shots over Tommy Fleetwood.
Well, I'm going to go chalk on one. I'm going to say Jon Rahm.
Okay.
I'm going to follow up with one of your selections this week with Bobby McIntyre.
Yep.
And
he had, I believe, a top 10 finish in 2019 when it was at Portrush.
Yes. And third one, I'm going to go off the grid. Who can we go with? I'll take a stab with the live guy, and I'll go Joaquin Niemann.
I did not go Niemann, but you nailed it on Jon Rahm. 1 out of 3, you're a Hall of Famer if you're a 300 hitter the rest of your life. I got Jon Rahm at 14, and I have since seen it move to 12. So I really like that number 14. Rahm was fantastic, by the way, at the U.S. Open. He just could not hold a putt to save. If he could have putted, just average, he would have won the thing. He was the best in the field off the tee. He was tremendous on approach. He really played great golf there. And as you know, we were on him, and I was like, God, just get that putter going, John. He did on Sunday when he shot 67. But 3 out of the 4 rounds, the putter was not cooperating. He's won the Irish Open twice. He did well here at Portrush last time in 2019. I think the game is really good for Jon Rahm right now. And then my second choice, with some of his comments we alluded to earlier in the program, I really liked his attitude, the way he felt like he was in contention and he was chomping at the bit and he was really close and it was exciting. I think Tyrrell Hatton might be close. And Tyrrell Hatton finished 6th at Royal Portrush. So it was a live guy, you're correct, but not Joaquin Niemann. Tyrrell Hatton finished 6th at Royal Portrush last time. And I like the way he showed up here at the U.S. Open. He could be ready to fire again. And then the last one of my favorites, I think he's getting ready again, Jeff. Jordan Spieth at 50 to 1.
I like
Spieth,
that pick.
Spieth at 50, Hatton at 30, and Rahm at 14.
I thought as you were going through it, I thought you might have gotten another bite at the apple. He looked good. He was confident. I just think he ran out of gas. The course killed him, but that would be Adam Scott.
Yeah, well, he's a tremendous links player, and he could be. The problem is now his numbers like down to 80 to 1 or something. I mean, if he was still at 150 or something or 125, he's a tremendous links player. We know he's had chances to win the British Open on more than one occasion. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but he's. We probably missed our opportunity with what he did here at the U.S. Open. That would have been such a brilliant story if he won the U.S. Open. Just an absolute bookmark to his, that would have cemented his spot in the Hall of Fame. And he's a Hall of Fame guy too. Everybody on tour, says that Adam Scott's the nicest guy in the world. That would have really been cool to see him win it all.
Well, he was nothing but a gentleman, a true professional there. You didn't know if he birdied or double bogeyed. He just took it all in stride. It's coming. It was hats off to him and the rest of the guys, especially, on that leader page. Never quit, and the conditions, the rain delays. So 3 majors in the book. In about a month, we'll have our 4th. Scroller's been going the whole time, Brady. Of course, everyone knows where to find you on X, on Las Vegas Golfer, on the Sports Grid, now Sportsline, CBS Sports, FB contest show. But as we always wrap up this segment, where can they find your written work and, of course, your schedule on the Sports Grid?
Yeah, the football contest show will be a little while before we get back into that. Obviously not football season just yet, but that'll kick off around August 22nd or something like that. As far as the grid, we'll be on a couple times tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern, 10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, going over all these selections again. As far as CBS Sportsline, you can find my stuff there at sportsline.com, and of course the written article as well at golf.com. It's all listed there on my Twitter feed at Las Vegas Golfer.
Well, I want to thank everyone watching and listening. Shout out to Mr. Berry. Happy Tuesday. I myself will be on Sports Grid in less than 1 hour, in-game live with Mr. Scott Wetzel and, of course, Mr. Dave Sharapan if you want to hear me for 1 or 2 spots. Otherwise, everyone, enjoy yourselves. Couple days till the Travelers, Cromwell, Connecticut. Have some fun. East Coast Sports Invest, and of course, Mr. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer. Enjoy the night. Go 0-0 right now. Still UCLA, Arkansas. Stay tuned.